Hello, we are now going to look at the universal design for learning. In this presentation, we are going to look at the history of the universal design for learning, the theories behind the universal design for learning, and an overview of the universal design for learning. Henceforth, I am going to refer to the universal design for learning as UDL. First, let's look at the history of the UDL. The UDL was created by the Center for Applied Special Technology, otherwise known as CAST. CAST was founded in 1984. CAST started the UDL as an initiative for students with exceptionalities. It has expanded its mission to all learners. This is mainly because the UDL can be applied to almost any classroom setting. Therefore, teachers applying UDL principles can now be found in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and universities all around the world. Also, since around 2008, UDL has begun showing up in legislation in the United States. It is now a component in the Perkins Act, the Higher Education Opportunity Act, and other pieces of legislation. The four guidelines of the CAST were originally the multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression, multiple means of engagement, and multiple means of assessment. I will get back to all of these. But these were the founding principles of CAST. CAST developed the universal design for learning as a way to expand learning opportunities to all students. Let's look at the theoretical basis of UDL. The UDL originated as a cognitivist-based method focused on providing access to the learning process for students who were previously ignored. Since CAST has its roots in special education, they did originally focus on students with exceptionalities. If you look at their founding principles, you will see some cognitivist fingerprints. They often talked about networks in the brain. For example, the knowledge network, the affective network, the strategic network, and lastly, an assessment of all three. Now, in current literature regarding UDL, you do not see this fourth guideline very much, but you will from time to time see it. Because literature currently focuses on these three, this is what we will talk about. Here is a sort of map of a brain in the cognitivist viewpoint. It is not something that's singular. It is something that has a variety of things that need to be focused on. However, the UDL has since expanded to cover areas of connectivism, constructivism, and even some aspects of behaviorism. With behaviorism, theories such as the latent learning theory can be applied or connected to the UDL. As a result, the UDL is best labeled as a method that is rooted in the complete learning theory. Here's a diagram of the complete learning theory. As you can see, the complete learning theory is influenced by cognitivism, which is where UDL has its roots, constructivism, connectivism, and behaviorism. And once again, while the UDL is historically associated with cognitivism, its design lends itself more to the complete learning theory. Now, let's look at an overview of the UDL. The UDL is, due to its cognitivist roots, designed in a way to stimulate certain areas of the brain. Now, it's worded as such. The first domain is the multiple means of engagement. The second domain is the multiple means of representation. And the third domain is the multiple means of action and expression. Another way to think of that is the what of learning, the how of learning, and the why of learning. Basically, Cass provided a blueprint on how to achieve these goals. The three main steps in each domain are access, build, and internalize. Each domain has unique checkpoints along the way. These checkpoints are very useful. However, there are many of them. And since this is a brief overview of the UDL, I will not look at all the checkpoints. However, what I do want to do is look at their general blueprint. And here it is, which is available on the CAST website, which is cast.org. And as you can see, there are three domains. And then there are three ways to implement these domains. And like I said, these are access, build, and internalize. Access, build, internalize. And there is an overarching goal for each of them. I'm going to very briefly look at all three. First up is engagement. So for engagement, a teacher should recruit interest, sustain effort and persistence, and then provide options for self-regulation. The overarching goal here is to have learners who are purposeful and motivated. Next up, with action and expression, the teacher should provide options for physical action, provide options for expression and communication, provide options for executive function, and finally, work towards encouraging learners to be both strategic and goal-directed. Finally, with representation, a teacher should provide options for perception, provide options for language and symbols, and provide options for comprehension, with the overarching goal being that learners should be resourceful and knowledgeable. Now, you might be asking, what does that mean? Provide options for perception, provide options for language and symbols, provide options for comprehension. Well, it's exactly what it says. A teacher should not just give students one way to perceive something. They should provide many options. They should offer different ways to question a display of information. They should offer alternatives for auditory information, for sound, and they should offer different ways to display visual information. This is the heart of UDL, and this module will look at these components in more detail later. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this quick and brief overview of the universal design for learning.